Chris Hale, GI Jobs Magazine, and I'm here talking with Assistant Secretary of Labor for Veterans Employment Training Service, Jeremiah Workman. Mr. Assistant Secretary, welcome. Thank you for taking the time out to talk with us.
Yeah, thanks for coming in.
I understand you're familiar with GI Jobs.
I am. I've been reading and seeing the magazine around since I was a PFC, so very familiar with it. And like I said, I'm glad that you guys were able to come in and we could sit down and have a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. We have covered, I think, every assistant secretary since 2002.
Okay.
Fred Juarbe, way back in the day. And so you're next in the long line of people who've held that seat. So thank you so much for being with us. So yeah, we'll just get started. So growing up in Richwood, Ohio, a little bit north of Columbus, as we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And you know, what motivated you to join the Marine Corps?
So Richwood is a little farming community, 2,000 people. You know, I grew up playing sports, was always, as a little boy, would put my dad's camis on, be out running around the woods, playing Army, like a lot of kids do.
Yeah.
I hope they're still doing that. But yeah, as I came up through high school, I specifically remember one day when the Marine Corps recruiter came into the cafeteria at my high school, and I saw everybody kind of snap their head at once to look at this guy. And I was, you know, I just remember being really impressed by the way they carried themselves, the way they looked, even the way they talked, everything. And I knew then that the Marine Corps was going to be my route, and
that was your thing.
That was it.
Yeah,
I was probably the easiest person that they ever got to join the Marine Corps. They ever recruited, because not only did they get me, but I drug about 4 or 5 of my friends with me to Parris Island with me. So
outstanding. Yeah. And how many in a graduating class? That must have been a pretty high percentage in Richwood, right?
I think we graduated with 83.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a very patriotic class we had.
And we talked earlier. You're you said you grew up playing sports, but you're a Steelers fan, and we're based in Pittsburgh, so that's outstanding.
Diehard Steelers fan. I get beat up a little bit being from Ohio.
Sure.
I get asked the question all the time, you know, how did you become a Steelers fan? Really, I don't know, but I'm glad it worked out the way it did. And Sixburg, you know, what a beautiful sports town.
And you've been honored on the field at Steeler games, I understand.
Yes, the Roonies, they do a military member appreciation during every home game, bring you out on the field, get to meet some of the players, and they do a really good job up there of supporting the military and first responders. So and we were talking earlier as well, Super Bowl 43 in Tampa with the Steelers and the Cardinals. You got to attend that? I got to attend that, and it's one of those moments I'll never forget. I probably need to get my ticket laminated just so nothing happens to it. But it was one of those moments that I'll remember to the day I die. You know, watching my team go to the Super Bowl, win it in the fashion that they did at the last second. I mean, it's beautiful.
Incredible. It's beautiful. So you enlisted in the Marine Corps, and I believe that you enlisted before 9/11, and while you were in boot camp, 9/11 happened. Yeah. So wow, tell us about that.
Yeah, I joined the delayed entry program, spent a year. So I was a brand new 17-year-old when I enlisted. Spent that year, almost a year, in the delayed entry program. Shipped off to Parris Island. Got there August 19th. September 11th happens. I remember that day like it was yesterday, standing in line at the recruit barbershop on Parris Island. And I remember the barbers running out, yelling that we were under attack.
Wow.
And I just remember thinking, you know, as a recruit, you're so shielded and away from everything news. We see nothing, but I thought Parris Island was under attack. I didn't know the scope of it. So it wasn't until I graduated on November 16th and got to go home for my 10 days of post-boot camp leave that it actually, you know, kind of hit me. And I knew, you know, I would probably have an opportunity to go overseas and put all my training and everything that I'd learned up until that point to good use.
It's amazing. I was in the military. I was on active duty from 91 to 2000, which was right after the Gulf War ended and right before 9/11 happened, and there wasn't a whole lot going on, which is one of the reasons I got out. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
But you didn't have that problem.
No, and my first duty station was a stateside non-deployable unit, and I just remember when OIF 1 kicked off and they were doing the march to Baghdad, the Marines were, I just felt like I was going to miss out. This is my opportunity this is why I signed up. And little did I know that I would get an opportunity later on to go over there to the sandbox and, take the trash out, rid the world of evil.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. So,
yep. Well, it's amazing the work that you've done over there. I want to talk about your Navy Cross citation. I read that citation right underneath the Medal of Honor. You're one of the most humble people I've met, but that is just that's an incredible thing, and what you did there. And would you share some of that with us? What the things around the happening that day?
Yeah, I was a squad leader. I look back at this. We're 22 years after the fact, but I was 20 years old. I'm a squad leader. I'm leading other Marines in combat, and we went into a house. I think there was 8 of us, to include 1 Navy corpsman with us, and we were ambushed. They were waiting on us. I'd probably, estimates are 20, 25 insurgents inside the house, but they were also jumping from rooftop to rooftop to resupply the house. And it was a 3-hour-long firefight. Everybody was wounded in the house, and unfortunately we lost 3 Marines that day. And, we stayed in that house and we fought as long as we had to make sure, you always hear the saying, no one left behind, and we weren't going to leave those Marines behind. And we fought, and it was close quarter battle. It was in your face. And, I'm glad that I made it home. I would give that Navy Cross. Obviously, I would give it back for those Marines to have their lives back. But what it's really done for me is it's given me a license to tell their story and keep their memory alive. And I don't miss an opportunity to talk about those Marines and their selfless actions and what they did for this nation.
Absolutely, it's heroic stuff, and obviously that we honor those who didn't come back. And the things you talk about, being 20 years old, leading a firefight, doing the things that you're doing there. I have 3 kids, and 24-year-old, a 21-year-old, and people that have never experienced that. And I've put myself in that situation. I'm a veteran, but not a combat veteran. Can't even imagine the kinds of things that our veterans, and specifically our combat veterans, are doing, and the skills that they come back with after having been through that kind of an experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I wasn't old enough to drink alcohol, but I was old enough to go overseas and lead Marines in combat. And I grew up really quick. And that's what I tell people is I went from a 20-year-old kid very quickly to a 20-year-old man really quick.
Yeah.
And I've always, since leaving the Marine Corps, being medically retired and everything, I've carried that with me, just the experiences and the hardships and all those things have made me a better person. They've made me a stronger person, and they've allowed me to go on to be successful, not only in my career, but more importantly, to be a good husband and a good father.
Yeah. You came back, a little bit more about your military service. You came back and you served as a drill instructor.
I did.
So training Marines that are coming back in. At what point in your career how many years in did you have in when you came back and did DI duty?
I got the DI school in September of 2006, so I'd been in 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I was young.
And was your experience on the other side of that training different because because of the recent combat experience than it was when you were going through on the other end of it?
Yeah, going through it as a recruit, it just, well, there wasn't YouTube back then, I don't think. We weren't Googling what to expect during Marine Corps recruit training, but I just remember back then it was just, get through breakfast, then get through lunch, and then get through dinner, and you made it another day through boot camp.
Right.
And going back as a drill instructor, I think with the experiences that I had just went through, because I went straight from Fallujah to DI school, literally months later.
Wow.
But I knew what I needed to teach these recruits to keep them alive, because I knew where they were going.
Yep.
And that's just what I kind of held on to. That was what kept me going and kept me motivated.
Yeah. But, you think about it, prior to that, it had been 6 years before there were any extended wars, the Gulf War, not aside. I mean, it was really, so the DIs that trained you probably did not have extensive combat experience.
No. And, I think drill instructors, they tend to train recruits the way they were trained.
Right.
It's just what we do.
Right.
But I think having that generation of Marines coming back from combat, I think it really, I think it was good for those recruits to be trained by folks that had danced with the devil overseas. They knew what these young Americans were getting into.
Yeah.
And it allowed us to be better drill instructors.
The role that you're in right now has such tremendous influence on the way that veterans transition out of the military and become civilians again. My own experience, I like to say, it took the Navy 6 years to turn me from a 17-year-old civilian into somebody that they trusted with an airplane to go out on a crew and do stuff. And then they turned around, and in 6 days, 6 years to do that, and 6 days to turn me back into a civilian again. And so the position you're in now has a tremendous amount of influence in that. So I'm curious to know, what was your experience when you transitioned out of the Marine Corps, off of active duty, back into the private sector?
Yeah, I was put on a medical board, little different than a traditional EAS or retirement. I felt like my livelihood was being taken away from me. I love being a Marine. I love being with the Marines. And, being told by a Navy doctor that you're no longer fit to serve, that you're going to be medically retired, that was a hard pill to swallow. By the grace of God and by wonderful people out there, mentors, case man, you name it, I had a wonderful team around me that ensured that I landed on my feet, and that my wife, my young son at the time, that we were taken care of. And they wrapped their arms around us, and they made sure that I had a successful transition. And that's that's why I'm so passionate, and I tell the staff here at Vets all the time, we have the best job on the planet. We get to come to work every day and make sure that service members, spouses, veterans we can get them gainful employment, and make sure they have that successful transition, because we've all heard horrible stories about what happens when that transition doesn't go as planned.
Right.
And I understand the gravity of that. I don't get spooked by a lot of things. There's not many things that scare me, but the one thing that does scare me is the thought of a veteran falling through the cracks.
Yeah. Yep.
That's what keeps me up at night.
Yep. No, absolutely. And we talked earlier as well, like just getting them gainful employment and getting them, you've got such a sense of identity when you're in the military, right? You have a rank, you've got ribbons, you've got war, campaigns and different things. When you get out, that identity is stripped away.
Yeah, it goes away. I mean, you're no longer around that comfort zone. Those people that you trust, that you respect, that you know them and they know you. And then one day it's gone. And you're back in small town USA trying to blend in and fit in.
With your transition, tell us a little bit about what maybe you would do differently if you could do your transition again, and also kind of what field you went into? I know you helped a lot of transitioning you helped veterans as part of that, but
yeah. So my transition, the first job that I landed was at the Wounded Warrior Regiment at Quantico, Virginia, which was a perfect fit.
Yeah.
It allowed me to continue to be around Marines and sailors and to help those that needed the most help. I was on what they called a Tiger team. I would deploy all over the country to the worst of the worst situations. Some of the things that I witnessed and seen in some of our veterans, their living conditions, it was sad. It was, but it made the fire burn even more for me. There's more we can do. And that's, I spent a year doing that, and it was tough. I mean, it's tough to be around the worst of the worst for an extended period of time like that. But, I moved on, I transitioned to the VA, and, my entire adult life has pretty much been spent helping veterans in some fashion or another. And it's what motivates me, and it's why I get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah. What is a message you would like to send to employers in this country about what do you want them to know about veterans and why they should hire veterans?
So I think the message that I would like employers to hear from me is every year, on average, 200,000 military members separate and leave the service between our active duty folks and National Guard and Reserve.
Right.
200,000 people that the government has spent a lot of money and a lot of time training these folks up to be good Marines, sailors, airmen, Coast Guardsmen, you name it. Everybody always wants to thank a veteran, and I always tell them, if you want to thank a veteran, hire a veteran. What better way to thank a veteran than just to hire a veteran? And what you're going to get with a veteran is somebody that's disciplined, trainable. They show up on time. They do the things that don't take any talent, and they do it really well.
Yes.
And you're getting somebody that's going to give you their all, and they're going to add a benefit, and they're going to add benefit to your operation, regardless of what you bring them in to do. Veterans just normally bring a different type of work ethic, and they bring success to whatever operation they join.
Yeah, it's those, we talk all the time at GI Jobs about the intangibles that they bring, or that's the expensive stuff to teach.
Right. Absolutely.
Right? You can't teach character.
Really, absolutely. It's, the discipline, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
The character.
And they and the specific skills can be learned, especially in the age of AI now, right? That stuff's far easier. Yeah, we'll wrap up here, but I wanted to leave kind of one last parting thought from you in terms of when we're looking a few years after your tenure here ends. How do you want to look back in terms of some of the positive changes that you made in this whole transition process?
So my goal as the Assistant Secretary here at VETS is very simple. We are laser focused on getting it right up front, the transition piece. Transition Assistance Program, Employment Navigator Partnership Program that we're about in our 5th year since we launched that, and we're having unbelievable results with that. I believe we're at 55 installations around the world. As far as our EMPP counselors, they deliver a one-on-one tailored counseling services to separating service members. But 2, 3, 4 years down the road, what I want people to know is that we moved the needle on this, and we wrapped our arms around these folks at the front end. And I know that this is the most important time. This is when they're vulnerable. This is the one opportunity we have to get this right. We take it very serious, and like we were talking earlier at lunch, we get them successfully transitioned. We get them on their feet. They have a good job, not a job to where they're scraping to pay the bills. I'm talking a job where they can buy a house. They can wake up in the morning. The veteran can wake up and look in the mirror and they have that dignity, they have that respect, and they look forward to contributing to society. And they add so much value, and that's what I want to hone in on. That's what I want to make sure that we get right, because what we do know is if we get it right at the front, the benefits and the services that we offer other, on the back end, I would love to get to a point where we don't need a homeless veteran reintegration program.
Right.
That's the goal, is to get away from that. And it starts with the front. It's the first opportunity for us to wrap our arms around these folks, give them the tools and the resources necessary to make a successful transition. And that's what we're going to do here.
Well, it's been a pleasure to sit down and have a chat with you. I think veterans should feel really good about the person that is in charge of this seat right now is one of their own, and somebody that's as passionate about doing right by them as you are. So
I appreciate that.
Thank you so much for your time today, and thanks for your service. And
thank you for your service.
And go Steelers.
Go Steelers. Absolutely.
Thanks so much. Okay.
Thank you.